everyone, welcome to the video. We are going to discuss the Accenture coding questions in this video. And again, a lot of Accenture is as of now hiring off campus as well. We've posted the link on our Instagram page. It's also hiring on campus as well in a lot of colleges as of this moment, right? So and even not just Accenture, there are a lot of companies like Cisco, Amazon, Microsoft, and Goldman Sachs that as of now are hiring. We've posted the link of all of those on our Instagram page, our Discord, and our WhatsApp and Telegram as well. So, make sure that you join us on our Instagram, Discord, WhatsApp, and Telegram at the worst case scenario. Link to all of those are given in the description of the video. The reason all of them, because sometimes, we are a little greedy for followers. So sometimes, it's a tactic that we only post it on Telegram, or we'll only post it on WhatsApp, or we'll only post it on Discord, right, for some drive, so that people follow us everywhere. So make sure that you follow us everywhere. Apart from that, each channel has its unique things. On Discord, we are doing daily live classes, absolutely free for everybody, about 7 to 8 hours, so that would be highly relevant for you. JP Morgan and PayPal are also going to hire, so make sure that you are following us on our social media channel. Links are again in the description. One more thing is, like every video, the top 3 comments on each video get a Prime Video subscription absolutely free. We announce the result every Friday on our Discord and our Instagram. So it could be, probably the questions that I'm going to discuss, the solutions of all of those questions in different languages, or it could be a very good doubt or a good experience that you had with Prepinsta, and something for your, for our hard work of approximately 60 to 70 people that are working in our team, right? So if you comment something good, my team probably would select you as the top 3 comments for this video, and they'll give you a Prime Video course subscription absolutely free, right? So I'm going to discuss this particular question, but before that, because I know a lot of you would not watch this video till the end, so which is why I'm very quickly running you through how do you prepare for Accenture. So there are 2 ways. Either you can go to prepinsta.com, and then from the prepare section you can just directly go to Accenture, and you'll be able to find all the previous year papers here on the website. For example, let's say if you want to solve numerical, verbal, analytical, coding, so on and so forth, you click upon ratio and proportion. You can also go ahead and solve the coding questions that are already given on our website on this particular page. We'll also put the link of this coding page and so on and so forth in the description of the video, so you can find all of these coding questions on our website as well, all the previous year questions that have been asked, right? So even with the ratio and proportions, for example, MCQ, there's a humongous amount of rank, percentile, analytics that we give, your time-based performance in terms of graphs and so on and so forth. So it will be really helpful for you. Apart from that, you can also go ahead with Prepinsta Prime as well. So it's basically like Netflix, just like a Netflix subscription. So just like you don't buy one movie on Netflix, you buy the Netflix subscription and you'll get access to all the movies that are there on Netflix. So Prepinsta Prime is also something like same, that you don't buy just Accenture course, you get the Prepinsta Prime subscription, and you'll get the access of our Accenture course, AMCAT, CoCubes, DXC, TCS, Microsoft, different company course, different coding courses for C++, data structures, Python, so on and so forth, right? So now one more thing that I want to explain you here, and if you just give me a moment. So Accenture, and this is very important for all of you to understand, Accenture last year hired via 3 partners. So the first one was VBox, the second one was HirePro, and then the third one was CoCubes. So what they were doing is they were using all of them. So let's say if 100 people are giving exam, 33% of them were giving exam via VBox, 33% were giving via HirePro, and same thing via CoCube. So they were kind of A/B testing that which platform is the best in terms of cost or in terms of effectiveness or hiring, so on and so forth. This year they have completely changed to CoCubes as well. But let's say in future, if they change back to this model, or maybe if they change back from CoCubes to any other platform, right? So you will not face this issue. Why? Because not just CoCubes or Accenture, you will also get VBox, so for example, Accenture is also there, right? So you'll also get Metal, HackerRank, AMCAT. So whichever platform that they change to, already it will be there on Prepinsta Prime, right? So we'll talk about Prepinsta Prime a little later. Now let's talk about Accenture coding questions, right? Now, there are two patterns in Accenture coding questions that we've seen, and to be honest, this is something that we've not mentioned on the website because this becomes confusing for people to understand. This is something that I'm mentioning in the video. So what we've seen so far is last 2 weeks there were off-campus drive going on for 2021 batches. What we saw that on Tuesday, the coding questions or the coding part had 45 minutes and 2 coding questions. And on Wednesday, some people were giving the exam, and both of them were via CoCubes, by the way. That there were 60 minutes and 3 coding questions. So, and then again on Saturday, well, I'm kind of taking an example, but of Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, it's basically like one day there were 2, then next day there were 3, and then next to next day there were 2 again, right? So on the next to next day there were again 45 minutes, and for you 2 coding questions were there. So you need to be prepared for all of those scenarios, right? So I'll explain you what essentially happens here is if there are 2 coding questions. So in that case, one is going to be of kind of, to be honest, I'll not say medium, I'll say easy, and one medium plus, a little more difficult than medium. If there are 3 coding questions, then 2 are easy, and 1 is medium. And then for this, the timing given is 45 minutes, and then for this one, the timing given is 60 minutes. So you need to be prepared for both of those scenarios because Accenture is again doing A/B testing, right? Whichever thing suits for them the best, right? So what I'm going to discuss in this video, first of all, I'm going to discuss an easy question, and then we'll take an intermediate difficulty question, right? So there are 2 questions that I'm going to be discussing. I'll be focusing upon C++ and Python, but we'll show you the code in all the 4 languages. So I'll tell you about that. Okay, so let's read the question. What they are saying here is that you are given a function called as check password, which accepts a string, which accepts n, and which accepts min. Okay, 3 variables. The function will accept a string, its length n. So okay, this is basically the length, and then another argument which min, which denotes the minimum length of the password. Okay, got it. If you're supposed to print valid if the password meets the below criteria, or invalid if the password doesn't meet the below criteria. Okay, got it. So at least min number of characters, right? So let's say if the value of min is 8, so it means that okay, whatever password that the user is entering should be at least 8 characters. Then 1 numeric digit. Okay, so basically 1 digit from 0 to 9. 1 capital, basically capital A to capital Z. 1 special character, that is star to this. So this is something that I added on my own. This was not there in the question, so we'll not be discussing this further, right? And also it must not have a space or plus. Starting character must not be a number. So these are all the things that are there in the question. Now let's have a look upon some test cases. Okay, so for example, what they're getting, assumption that input string will not be empty. So this is the assumption. Then we are having that okay, this is the input string. So if we look at this string, so obviously there is one capital letter, so which is perfect. There is one number, so which is perfect. The starting is not with a digit, so that's perfect. And then there is special character also, and then there is there are no underscore or plus, or not underscore, space. So by underscore they meant space, or like space bar, or plus, right? And min value they have given here as 5. Okay, so let's count 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Okay, so obviously the length of the password is 7, and they've said that okay, 5, it should be greater than 5. It should not be, or basically it should not be less than 5, right? In this case, this one is, so which is why we'll print valid here. In this case, this one is invalid. The reason being, I can directly see that there's an empty space, right? So as in the question, they've clearly mentioned must not have a space. So which it does. So which is why we are going to be saying invalid. Now let's have a look upon the question. So I'll do this in C++ so that or C and C++ people will understand, and I'll also do it in Python, and we'll show you the code for Java. Okay, so very quickly, this is the most important part, and to be honest, these string kind of questions, people are not able to move forward even if the other part of the question is same, because they don't understand how to get the input of it. So to be honest, with strings you cannot use for example cin, or probably, right, or you cannot use something like scanf, because in that case it will only scan one character, not the whole thing. And there are some issues with gets also, so you cannot also use gets. because there are some issues with gets also. And to be honest, in C++, there's something called as deprecated. So what C++ community is saying that, okay, this function that is gets is available as of now, but we are going to remove it in the future. So how do you go about it? Now, first of all, what we've done is we have a min, which basically will accept the minimum number of characters from the user, the string s, and then we use something called as get line, and then cin and s. So whatever is the user entering, so let's say I am entering AA9 hash 3FB. So all of this would automatically be stored in this s variable. If you did not know that, make sure that you're remembering all of this. This is the perfect way in terms of how do you accept string in C++ and in C also. Right. Then again, you would use this inbuilt function called as s.size, which is, and you will call this as len. And then basically, since what we are supposed to do is, since I need to pass this string, and I need to pass this string to my different function, that is check password. So I cannot pass the whole string by pass by value, so on and so forth. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to pass it with some particular pointer, so that this is the memory location which wherein, let's say, this s is stored, and I'm just passing to this particular function that, okay, this is the memory location, access the whatever a, b, c and whatever we've written from here. Okay, so what we've done is I've created a pointer which can point towards a character type, so char star c, and I've given this the address of ampersand s of 0. So what I've done here is, so let's say if the string is abc9 hash 23, so what I've done is, for s of 0 in this case would be this, so I've kind of given the address of the starting of the string to this particular pointer. Now the pointer is pointing here. This is the most easiest and the perfect way on how do you do that. I know a lot of people would not know this. And to be honest, even for Python people, this is important, because pseudocode, a lot of times pseudocodes are asked, input-output questions are asked, which are not going to be in Python, which are going to be in C, which is why you must also know this. And then finally, you'll be accepting the min value, that is the minimum number of characters, and then you'll just go ahead with check password and pass all of these three variables. Now, let's have a look upon the password that is there. So the check password function, right? These are all the parameters that we have. So how we are checking this? Again, what we've said here is char str. So to be honest, I can write star str also. Our prime members would know on how and why we can do this. I'm not going to explain this why. So the first thing is the total. So basically here with n, I've passed the length using s.size, right? Method that is available. So I've passed on the length here, and obviously I've includes bits, std, so on and so forth, so which is why I can use all of these things. Correct. So now moving forward, what I'm checking here is that at least min number of characters with this particular line. That, okay, if the length of this is, let's say, 4, and they say that min value is 7, so 4 is less than 7, so we'll directly be returning 0. Okay, we'll directly be returning 0. And to be honest, here it will print 0. And to be honest, the reason why I did not do so what we can do is, we can write this, or we can change this into an if-else case, that is, if, and I'll say this check password, so I'll write cp. So if it returns 1, so we'll just say, or let's say cout or printf cout valid, and else then I'll just simply say cout invalid. So I can change this line to handle if else condition, right? So basically, if it is returning 1, right, we'll see a little later, so we'll just print out valid. If it is returning 0, basically we'll print invalid. Okay, so it's pretty simple, by the way. So again, let's move on forward. So basically this particular line is for checking if the minimum characters are there. If not, we are just going ahead and we are returning 0. That, okay, no need to check all of these things. The minimum characters are lesser than the min value that they've given, so we don't need to check it further anymore. Now the next thing is, starting character must not be a number. So how you can check this? I hope that a lot of you would know about ASCII values. This is even relevant for Python, Java, and C++ people, all of them. So how we are checking all of this is, I'm saying, what is the first character? The first character will be denoted by str of 0. So what I'm doing is, so let's say if it has, for example, let's say I'm subtracting it by the ASCII value of, okay, just give me a second, my alarm is running. So the ASCII value of 0, simply. So let's say if this particular number is between 0 to 9 after applying this operation. So let's say, for example, I don't know the ASCII value of 0. To be honest, I've forgotten it a little. So let's say if the ASCII value of, let's say, 3, which is str of 0, is, let's say, for example, 49, or let's say 51, right? So in that case, the ASCII value of 0 obviously would be, let's say, 48, for example, right? So when I subtract this value, that is 51 minus 48, I will be getting a number with that is 3. If the number is between 0 and 9, so obviously this is a digit, or this is a number, right? So basically with this particular line we are checking that. Now moving ahead, what I'm doing is I'm using a, right? Why I'm using a? Because to be honest, I could have also said I, that would have made it easier. I'm using a to iterate upon this while loop. Next, I'm using cap here. Why? Because I want to count the number of capital letters. I'm using nu. Why? Because I want to count the number of numeric digits, right? Basically what they're saying is at least one numeric digit, at least one capital letter, right? So I'll go and run through the while loop. The first thing that and the while loop, what the while loop would do is, for example, a b c d e f 6 hash. This is a string. So our while loop will first start from here, go here, and keep on going here till the very end. So on each and every step of a, and I'm doing a plus plus at the very end. So I'm moving next, then I'm moving next, then I'm moving next, then I'm moving next, so on and so forth. So I'm moving next. At each and every step, I'm checking, okay, whatever let's say position that I'm at currently, I hope that it's not a blank space, which is why I've written just this. So again, obviously there's a blank space here, right? And it should not be a plus. So if it is, then we are directly going and returning 0. That okay? It's invalid. Okay. Then next thing that I'm doing is, obviously if it is a capital letter, so in that case, for capital letter, the ASCII value of capital A is 65 and capital Z is 90. So whatever I am reading as of now, let's say A, B, C, D, capital E, right? So if I'm reading capital E, obviously the ASCII value of this would be greater than 65 and smaller than or equal to 90. If it is, then in that case, I'll do cap plus plus. So basically my cap, which was 0 earlier, has now changed to 1. So I'll say that, okay, at least one capital letter I've encountered now. Similarly, the same thing I'm doing here for numerics, right? I'm subtracting whatever value. So let's say A, B, C, D, and then let's say 9, or E, F, 9. And I'm currently at 9. So what I'm doing is, I'm subtracting str of A, which is basically I'm here. So let's say if it is, for example, let's say 57, for example, right? So I'm saying 57 minus, again, the ASCII value of 0, which is, let's say, for example, 48, right? So the answer would be 9. So if the value is between 0 to 9, in that case, I've encountered a numeric digit. So which is why I do nu plus plus. And then finally, I'm doing a plus plus so that I can iterate upon this while loop moving forward, so on, so on, so on. And finally, what I'm doing is, I am saying cap greater than 0 and nu greater than 0. So that is, if I've encountered a numeric digit or a capital digit, I would have done cap plus plus and nu plus plus at least one time, right? And if I so obviously both of these values, basically this would return true or basically 1 if both of these values are greater than 0. So, or if one of these things are not greater than 0, then it will return 0 or basically false, right? How we are handling this in our main function is pretty simple. I guess I'll put the link of we'll put the code, the updated code, which I forgot to do here, in the link of the in the description of the video. So how we are changing is this is I'll just simply remove this line and I'll say if, let's say, check password and whatever arguments it accepts, right? So if this returns 1, so I just go ahead and say cout valid, and else I'll just go ahead and say cout invalid. So obviously if we are returning 0, so in that case this condition will get checked. Obviously check password would have gotten 0 as return value, so which is why it will directly throw to else, right? So this is our first program. This is an easy level of program. The same code works in Python almost similarly, as you can see here, right? We are checking the min, we are checking if it's a digit here, we are doing cap, and nu we are running through a for loop, and then checking if it's a digit, if it's between a to z, doing cap plus plus, doing new plus plus, and we are at each and every step we are checking if it's not a blank space or if it's not a plus. And then if both of these values are greater than 0, then we are returning 1, and then we are returning 0. And then as you can see here, so this is where I've implemented it perfectly in our Python code. So which is why, I remember to do it in a Python code, but I forgot to do it in our C code. So even your C++ code would be the same. Instead of print, you'll use cout, right? So this is exactly what's going to change. Now let's have a look upon the second question, which is a little moderate difficulty. Now before solving this question, right, so I'll be solving this in a very bad time complexity. So mostly the time complexity of this is going to be on square, but to be honest, it doesn't matter. Why? Because we have less time. First of all, they're asking you to solve 45 minutes, and then they're asking you to solve 2 questions, or 60 minutes, and then they're asking you to solve 3 questions. So time complexity does not matter here, and even in the test cases they are not saying that, okay, constraints, they are not talking about constraints. To be honest, there's a way to solve this particular question that deals with a binary search and so on and so forth concept, basically sorting the array and so on and so forth, wherein I can do the same question in n log n also. And there is one more way wherein hashing could also be applied, wherein I can just do it in O of n way as well. So I'll be solving in this because we have lesser amount of time. But to be honest, if it was a Goldman Sachs or if it was a Amazon or TCS Digital, so on and so forth, so I would have expected you to know this. Maybe for smart people who want to get free Prime Video course, I would want you to comment this code. Basically, this deals with sorting, this deals with hashing. So let's go ahead. And again, if you do not know how to do it, we've covered the same kind of question, or same question to be honest, in our Prime Video course, wherein we are talking about these techniques as well. So in our data structures course also, and in our competitive coding course also. So let's have a look upon the question here. So you can try to read the particular question, but I've already read it. So basically what they are saying is you're given an array, and you're supposed to, and obviously the length of the array is also there. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to count the number of distinct elements that are there in the array and return the count of number of distinct elements, and there's a function called as find count up. So it's a very famous question. So I'll give you one example on how you can solve this. So for example, let's say this is the array that we have. So you have 8, then you have 9. So if I look, count the number of distinct elements, so let's say 8, then 9, then 5, then 8 I'll ignore, 9 I'll ignore because this is not distinct. We've already encountered 8 and 9 here, then 7, and then 12. So how many do we have? We have 5 elements here which are distinct, and then obviously these are repeated. Okay. Now, let's have a look upon the second test case wherein we have 8888. So in that case, how many distinct elements do we have? So by mistake, I copy pasted this from here to here. So this is my bad. The answer in this case is 1. Okay. So this is how you go ahead. Now, let's have a look upon the program. So obviously there are multiple ways to solve this question, but in this question, what I'm going to talk about so basically after solving this question, I'm hoping that your brain will get unlocked to a new kind of way of solving a particular question. Okay. So generally, what you would do is, let's say before coding, the most important approach is you need to pick a pen and paper and you need to draw diagrams, right? So let's say, generally, if I want to solve this particular question, I would first try to think how my brain is working, and then I will try to write the code in terms of, okay, this is how my brain worked. So this is how for loop, while loop, so on and so forth worked in my mind, right? So let's say this is the array, for example, right? So what I'll do is I'll first look at 5, and then I'll be like, okay, I see one more 5 here, so I'm going to ignore it, right? So I fixate my 5 here, and then I look at 7, and then I'm like, there's one more 7 here, so I'm going to ignore it. So I'm going to just remember this. So basically I'll write 5 in my brain. I'll write 5. Okay, this is 1 5, and then this is 1 7, and then this is ignored. This is ignored, and then there's 8 here. But this is now how code works, right? You as a human being can fixate upon this 5 and look at this 5, and then in there you can be like, okay, in future let's put a cross, so ignore it. But to be honest, this is now how code works. Code does not know what's going to happen in the future. So rather than solving it in the way wherein you are fixating here and then going ahead, let's have a look upon a different scenario. Okay. So what if I do this? So basically what we are doing is we are looking at the first occurrence. Very important word. We are looking at the first occurrence of any particular digit. So first occurrence of this 5. First occurrence of this 7. And then we are ignoring the second or third occurrence or fourth occurrence of this 5 or this 7, so on and so forth. So rather than thinking in terms of the first occurrence, what if I think in terms of last occurrence? Right? Now I'll explain you the code. You will understand. So last occurrence is this 5. Last occurrence is this 7. And let's try to ignore this and this. In that case, it will be a little better. You will see how. Okay. So basic thing, everybody would know this. So what we are supposed to do is, because I need to fixate upon any particular value, and last occurrence is what I want to do, but we'll talk about last occurrence a little later. Right? So I need to fixate upon one thing and I need to iterate upon the rest of the array. So I need one for loop for that. So basically one for loop. So the first for loop for, let's say, I starting from 0 till I is less than the length and I plus plus, so that I can fixate upon this 5. I need another for loop, by the way. Why? Because if I fixated upon this 5, I need to move in this direction and check if this element is also 5, 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 right? So another for loop which will basically be starting from j, and that will start. So if this is I is equals to 0, so that is basically starting from whatever the value of I is plus 1. So j is equals to I plus 1. And then as you can see here, length, j is less than length and j plus plus, right? So with these two for loops, and I'll just show them here. So with these two for loops, and we'll understand the code a little later. I'm just trying to explain you a basic thing. With these two for loops, what I'm doing is I'm fixating upon this 5 and I'm checking the rest elements. What we are checking, we'll look at it a little later. Then in the second iteration, let's say when I is equals to 0, so I am fixating upon this and checking this. When my I becomes 1, so I'm fixating upon this and checking these. When my I value is 2, then I'm fixating upon this and checking these. Then my I value is 3, then I'm fixating upon this and checking this. Then my I value is 5, then I'm fixating here, by the way, but I'm not able to run and check because there's nothing else further. So this is why we need two for loops. But since I want to only be caring about last occurrence, let me write it clearly. Last occurrence. So what I will do is, I will fixate upon this 5 and I will move in this direction. Okay. So what I'm checking is, if my ARR of I is equal to ARR of J, yes or no, I'm checking this. So obviously my J value is currently this, my I value is currently this, and this is my J value. So is 5 equal to 7? No. So my J value will become this. Is 5 equal to 5? Yes. So what I mean by this is, currently I am here and this value is not my last occurrence. Why? Because there is another 5 in future. So what I'm doing is, the count part of it, or counting the number of distinct elements, I'm postponing to whenever I encounter the last occurrence. Let's see further. Same thing. So let's say when my I is, let's say this, so obviously my J will be starting from here, right? So I'll check, is 7 is equals to 5? No. So which is why my J will change from here to here. Is 7 equal to 7? Yes. So I will stop with this for loop. I will stop with this fixation and I'll be like, okay, I don't want to increment the count of the distinct elements because this is the 7 that I'm seeing. There's another 7 in the future. So the incrementing of count of distinct elements, I don't want to do now. I will do it in future. Let's see further. Okay. Let's say in future when I will reach this I, so my J will be, obviously J is I plus 1, right? So my J would be this. So I'll check, if 5 equal to 7, no. Then my J will move to this. Is 5 equal to 8? It will also say no. And then end of the array. Which is why, since there's end of this array here, so which is why I will know that, okay, I've traversed through the whole array starting from here. So this must be the last occurrence of 5, right? So let me increment the count plus plus. So my count of 5, or my count which was 0 earlier, has now changed to 1. That, okay, this is the first distinct element that, or this is the first distinct element that I got using the last occurrence approach, right? Let's again have a look upon this 7 here. So I'll fixate upon this 7. I'll check here. Obviously, this is not equal to 7. Then I'll try to check one more, end of the array. So which is why I will know this is the last occurrence. I've traversed till the end of the array. I did not find 7 again. So let me increment of the count. My count, which was 1, which is why I'll do plus plus, has now changed to 2. Then same thing will happen again. 8, right? So I will have my I at here, I is equals to 4 here. And then I will try to fixate my J is equals to 5. But the second for loop will not be able to run because of J is less than length. So basically what I'm practically saying is, I tried visiting the next part of the array, but there's end of the array here. There's no further 8 in future. So which is why let me do count plus plus. My count was 2, which will now get changed to 3. So thus, since even with I, I've reached the end of the array. So let me just go ahead and return the count. Let's say in future, let's say I had 1 5 here also, for example. So here what would have happened here is, I would have, my I would have been, let's say this is 2, right? My J would have been here. I will check 5 equal to 7. No. So which is why my J would come here. then this will also not be true because 5 is not equal to 8. So my j would have come here. So then 5 equal to 5 would have gotten true. So which is why I would not have taken the decision here, but rather I would have said there's a 5 in future. So let me postpone the decision of increasing the count future when I will reach this last 5. Let's have a look upon how we are doing it with the help of the code. Again, 2 for loops. One basically to fixate the element. Let's say fixate. Second for loop to basically whichever element is fixated to look on the right hand side. Right? Basically this, fixate this, and this moves towards the right. Same thing. For even second, this fixate this moves towards the right. For third, this fixate this moves towards the right. So this is what 2 for loops are doing. I'm introducing one variable called as flag. And I'm saying my flag value is equals to 0. Alright. So what my flag 0 means that I am assuming as of now that this 5 is the last occurrence. I'm assuming this. This may change in future. So what will happen? My another for loop will run as soon as I encounter. So basically my another for loop will run inner. As soon as I see that okay, this particular 5 in iteration of I is there in another iteration of j here. So I will run this if condition. I will put my flag from 0 to 1 and I will break out of this for loop, because let's say if I found 5 here, is there any need to look in the future? There's no need to iterate. This is obviously not the last occurrence because I've checked 5 here. So obviously there's no point looking in the future, because even if there's more 5 here, this is at least this one is not the last occurrence, right? So what would happen is, right, my count will only be increased if my flag, which was initialized 0 here, remained 0 here as well. And how would this happen? So let me explain you. So for example, let's say you had a number called as 12. So you would have fixated your I is equals to 0 here. You would have checked till the very end. This particular condition, that is I is equals to, or that is this value, when you are moving from this will not have gotten satisfied because there is no 12 in this direction. So which is why this part of the code would have never gotten implemented, which is why your flag, which you initialize 0, would have remained 0 and thus count plus plus. Or in the second scenario, obviously here it would not have happened anything because there's another 5 here in the future. But for this particular 5, when my iteration of I is here, my j would be trying to iterate here. I would not have found another 5 here and here also, and then there's end of the array. So which is why my flag would have been assigned 0 and would have still remained 0 here. So which is why as soon as I reach the end of the array, I would have done count plus plus. And then finally, I'm returning count, and then finally we are printing count. So this is basically, to be honest, this is like an O(n) square approach. To be honest, there is n into n minus 1 by 2 number of comparisons. You should also know this because these are kind of MCQ questions that are asked. How n into n minus 1 by 2? Basically, this is a mathematical approach we teach you in our Prime video course. There's very less amount of time for this video. I want to keep this video short, which is why I'm not explaining. There are 2 further ways to solve this particular question. To be honest, there are at least 10 ways to solve the question, but in terms of the classic approaches, there are 2 further good ways, which is one of them is n log n way, which has to do with sorting, which I will not tell in the video. There's one more way, which is O of n, which has to do something with hashing. We've covered both of them in our Prime video course. The reason why, because you're fine to do O(n) square way, because you first of all you have to solve 60 minutes, 3 questions. So if you try to do them, it may take longer amount of time. To be honest, no. This one will take, so let's say if coding all of this would have taken 10 minutes, coding this would have taken 2 minutes. Coding this would have taken 3 minutes. So the code is shorter because of this. But to be honest, for me to explain you, first of all, I have to explain you the whole hashing, which I can't do in this video. I have to explain you the whole binary search, merge, sort, divide, conquer, so on, so forth, which I cannot do in this video. How you can go ahead with this? Again, there's this Prime video course on Prep Insta, wherein the competitive coding course. So you'll be learning all of these techniques here, and even in the data structures course, I'll just very quickly be showing you that. So for example, let's say this is in our hashing part of it. So as you can see, count distinct elements in the array. So this is the video. This is the first video that I'm getting. Then there's using this sorting approach, wherein we use this sorting approach. I hope that you'll be able to see the code. This is very small code, right? And then there's this hashing approaches. So there are two hashing approaches here to solve this question. Okay. So again, you get Prep Insta Prime, you'll get access to all the courses that are there on Prep Insta: C, C++, Java, machine learning, artificial intelligence, data science, Power BI, AWS, competitive coding, data structures, basic coding. So again, we have two courses. So this basic code, a lot of you would be non-CSIT people, right? So you would say, "Sir, I'm zero in coding. How do I go ahead? Should I'm not at a level of competitive coding. I'm not even at a level of data structure." So for you guys, we have two separate courses which no website has, but we have, because we understand you people that you do not even remember syntax. So which is why we have basic coding course, which is very basic level of coding. So it starts with hello world, and then level of difficulty slowly keeps on increasing to a level of difficulty that is probably prime numbers, palindrome, so on and so forth. Then there's intermediate coding course, wherein the level of difficulty starts from prime video, so on and so forth, and the level of difficulty keeps on going till, for example, let's say this particular code that I showed you, right? In even more difficult than that also. But basically, if you're zero in coding, our Prep Insta Prime will guarantee that with our basic coding course and intermediate coding course, you will set up your foundations, and then data structures and competitive coding would be amazing for you. We have another course for data structures that is called as data structures for service-based companies, because to be honest, these data structures course at the very end would be a little advanced and would be more relevant for product-based companies. So let's say people who are still only aiming for service-based companies. So this is the data structure course for that. Apart from that, obviously we have AMCAT, CoCube, GLitmus. We also have Accenture course on our website, which completes the whole Accenture, the computer fundamentals parts, the aptitude parts, the cognitive part, the PFA part, the programming part, the MS-DOS, MS Access, so on and so forth, the coding part, so on and so forth. There's this syllabus also, I guess. For this particular course, the syllabus of the course that we are covering in this particular course, you can find the link of it in the description of the video. We are covering all of this, so you can check the detailed syllabus. There's mocks, there's previous year papers, so on and so forth. There's certification from Prep Insta, there's certification from TCS as well. So since we are partnered with TCM, and I guess this week we'll also be partnered with NASCOM and a few more companies. Also, whenever you purchase Prep Insta Prime, you'll automatically get access to prepinsta.com. So there are some paid quizzes. Automatically, you'll get access to this as well, right? So even with the Accenture coding, so for example, let's say Accenture coding questions, right? So you can find the solutions of both the coding questions and even more coding questions that have been asked in the past on this particular page that I'm just showing you. We'll keep on updating this page, so you'll see more questions here. So you'll find all the coding questions on this particular page, right? So thank you so much. Please make sure that also one more thing. We have 100% refund policy on Prep Insta Prime. The quality of the courses is that good that you will never ever ask, but we feel that you'll never ever ask for money. To be honest, I'll just show you a conversation that I was having with one particular person, that is this guy here. So good morning, sir. So basically in Hindi he's saying, sir, what is the quality? Prime and maza aa gaya. So basically he's saying it was so amazing. And then we are having a conversation. People are really loving Prime. We are saying this by testimony, and the most important testimony is we are the only one that offers 100% refund policy in the market. Nobody else does. So that's pretty much about it. Apart from that, yes, there are a few companies that are hiring. Just like I said, Accenture as of now is hiring. The link to all of those are posted on our social media handles. The link is given in the description of the video. And PayPal and JP Morgan are going to be hiring next week. So we'll also put the link on our Instagram, Telegram, WhatsApp, and Discord. So make sure that you join all of them. And again, if you want to get Prep Insta Prime subscription absolutely free, then you can go ahead with Prep Insta Prime. You can go ahead and comment something good experience, comment maybe the solution of the coding that I've explained, different approach of code solution that I've explained. Also Java and C code, we will also give you. So there will be a link in the description of the video. You can go ahead and check the Java and C code as well there. So thank you so much, guys. Do not forget to subscribe, because we'll be putting a lot of other videos as well on our YouTube. So thank you so much. I'll see you up ahead in the next video.